Alrighty, another thing on the parts delta. Um, just wanted to get it prepped to go into storage, but get everything that I wanted off of it for right now. I still have to put parts in the trunk, but we got the drive shaft from this car in there right now. There's the tranny, and the magical switch pitch transmission. One thing I forgot, I thought it was just gonna be an easy swap into the vista of the whole transmission. But the problem is that the speedometer, there's no speedometer on this case. You can see where it would go, but it's completely cast over because the speedometer on these cars runs off this wheel. You can follow the speedometer cable out the dash. It goes down, goes right there, and it goes into the back of the hub. So basically how all cars are now with their wheel speed sensors for anti-lock brakes. They were doing it back in here, and then all the cars went to out the tail shaft. This was not a very common setup, but GM did a lot of things that weren't very common. And Oldsmobile and Cadillac were their experimental brands for that. Like Oldsmobile had this. In 1970 Oldsmobile, you could actually get anti-lock brakes. Extremely rare option, but it is in the factory service manual. There is a wheel speed sensor in the rear differential housing, and there was a sealed module that I believe was in the engine bay. It could have been under the dash, but I believe it was in the engine bay, and it would automatically pump just the rear brakes, because obviously you have no wheel speed sensors in the front, or you didn't have a way to measure the wheel speed in the front. That would have been simple enough. So, and I believe you could also get the anti-lock brakes with cruise control. So if you think about that, you would have to run, let's see, the cruise control module, the cruise control setup already has 3 cables. Three cables for that. Or 2 cables, I should say. One going from the speedometer to the box, one going from the box to the transmission. The wheel speed sensor on the anti-lock brakes in 1970 was in one of the wheels, I believe. So that was another cable that you had to run. And then if you were to run the front wheels, that's 2 more cables. All I get 3-channel ABS. That's a lot of cables to lubricate and maintain and manufacture and route. So it would only pump the back brakes. Super rare option, experimental. I think it was that year only. I know that. What else? The Oldsmobile was the first to get the Quadrajet, I believe. Which this car doesn't have, but it was 66 first year for the car was it 66? I get them backwards. It was either 65 was the first year for the Quadrajet, and then 66 was the first year for the Turbo. Yeah. 66 was the first year for the Quadrajet, because in 65, Buick was doing the switch pitch trannies. And Oldsmobile and Cadillac. You didn't, just not Pontiac or Chevy, I believe. So, they were doing the Super Turbine 400s, which is switch pitch. Not a turbo hydromatic, it's a super turbine in the Buicks. Buick called it switch pitch, which is what I call it, but Oldsmobile marketed it as variable vane, which is a little more accurate, but it doesn't roll off the tongue as nice. So it's a switch pitch tranny. And then they were also doing it on the ST300s, which is basically power glide with the same torque converter. And they're interchangeable. There they would be, except for the fact that one is like 12 inches, the other's 13. I believe this is the 1300, the 13-inch. So the question is, what do I do about this speedometer? If I want to put switch pitch in the Vista. What do I do about the speedometer? I have a couple options. I know that the torque converter in this will go right on to a regular turbo 400. I just need a way to switch it, and then there is an orifice in the pump that is normally blocked off that gets that has to be swapped. The other thing is I'm not sure if I can swap tail shafts and potentially output shafts. So I got to figure that out. But I'm thinking I'm going to have to be switching cases probably. And then figuring out speedometer with the tail shaft. We'll figure it out. I'll get it figured out. But I know that this will swap out with a regular turbo 400. It should. Bolt pattern wise is the same. The only major difference is the switch pitch. And then I noticed that the inspection cover is steel on this car, whereas on my 1970s stuff, it's plastic. Plastic makes a little more sense, but steel is kind of nice, except for the fact that it rusts. It's just nice because it's metal. Yes, I'm not sure how I'm gonna do it. I got to do a little more research. But there it is. That is the magical torque converter. Inside there's a bunch of moving parts. Hopefully this one's not frozen. I'm not sure if it is. I was pretty sure. I'm not sure if the one in my 4-barrel car is frozen or not. I know the last time I drove it, when I loaded down on the trailer with no brakes, she was cruising in drive. I'm pretty sure that was set at low stall, which is like 1800 or 2000 RPMs. And the high stall is 2800, 26 to 28. And not sure, but I know it's going to be wicked in the Vista, especially with those 256 gears. I should be able to floor it. Those secondaries kick in, downshifts, and then it pops it out into high stall mode. That thing should jump, practically do a wheelie in the station wagon. But yeah, so I got to figure out how I'm going to do the speedometer. And that might require swapping guts around, swapping cases around. I'm not really sure. Transmission's out. That's really all I wanted to pull on this car right now. I want to load the trunk up with junk. And then get it into its temporary outside storage. Until I actually start working on my 4-barrel car. That's not going to be for a while. Because this weekend, I have a friend. Maybe I'll put some videos up. I have a friend with a 64 Dynamic 88. He saved, new frame, rebuilt. It was a 394 2-barrel car, high compression. It's rebuilt. It's running. We got to get it running better. And then he just wants some small rust spots fixed and then just temporarily painted, just so it looks. It's a good, 30-footer. And then eventually he wants to get her fully painted when he can afford it. So we're going to fix some of the rust, try and slow down some of the visible rust, and then move on to inner rockers. And I told him he's going to have to somehow find a new trunk pan and stuff like that, because it's a little too far gone. Yeah, so that's going to be this weekend. And then yeah, that'll be this weekend gone. So then during the week, I'm going to have to really got to get this car out and then really get the motorcycles done. Because it's starting to warm up, even though we just got a crap load of snow here in Wisconsin. Not a crap load, a medium-sized crap load. Not like a crap load. But I got to get the motorcycles done. I finally got my seals for the Triumph. Down here, that go in the wedding band, That's a different height. And the seals Triumph gave me in the rebuild kit were not good, so I got some variable height seals from Lowbro Customs. And I'm going to put those in, then we can get the cylinder head bolted on and get the valves set. Once that's done, motor goes back on the bike, and then we can torque everything down with the brake hooked up, put the rest of the motor together, get it started. And then I got to quickly whip out the Yamaha. That's all taken apart. It just has to be put back together. Just throw the motor back together, get it running, and then swap out the handlebars because I don't like the ones on there. It's too narrow. So I think I'm just going to go back to factory handlebars. And I got to balance the tire. Got to buy some wheel weights. But I got everything I need to do it. It's just I got to get the Triumph put together and just get it done. I've been busy doing other things. And one last thing on the Delta. This block right here. This plug is for a block heater. But I was looking around. It's like, well, I can't find a block heater. And then I followed the cord, which I should have done in the first place. It's tucked away right there. It's a heater inline to the heater hose. Heater. And you can't really read it. Right there. Model K9 something to water heater. I think electric to water heater. But yeah, that is interesting. I've never seen one of those before. I wonder if it still works. Probably not. But how cool would that be? To throw on the 4-barrel car. I'll never get driven in the winter. But, you know, in those chilly fall days, when the 7-liter just can't keep up. I'm assuming the reason this was put on is because they probably lived, this was an Illinois car as far as I know, for its entire life. The rust would suggest that it's at least a Midwest car. Guy I bought it from didn't say where he bought the car from. I believe he said he bought it from some gentleman that he knew. But the guy I bought it from while living in Illinois, he was originally from Wisconsin. So, northern Wisconsin. So, he somewhere from Wisconsin or Illinois is my assumption. Assuming because it's an AC car, the heat wasn't as good as they wanted it. Or the guy they bought it from lived in way northern Wisconsin. He's a Yooper, maybe even in Michigan. And I would assume cold days, heat just was not what he wanted it to be. So, yeah, that would be my assumption. I see it. Another one of those water valves. Hopefully that's not bad either. So, but yeah, it's late. I'm exhausted. I'm going to get up for work tomorrow. So, that's the status of the car. And that's going to be the status of the car for a long time. Get the junk in the trunk. Take it to where it's going to be stored. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see when I get to sectioning the frame. I gotta redouble check my Delta frame. I'm hoping that rear rust is the only issue. That way I can section it. If it's not, then I gotta weld in patches in the spots that are rusted out. But I gotta go and take a look at the car and see what's up with it. Probably do that Saturday, because I gotta run up north. Not too far north, just about an hour north of where I am, and go get my bed capper for the Silverado, my bed cap, because I've been meaning to get it for over a year from the buddy that I bought the truck from. He's just been hanging on to it for me, so I figured I'd finally get it out of his hair. And then on my way back, stop, look at the 4-barrel car, which is tucked away in the back corner of the shed, and just see if I can't get some better visuals on the frame. But yeah, that's it. Next time.